Hello and welcome to Lord of the Board. My name is Sam, and today we are going to be doing an overview and guide on Moff Gideon in the brand new Star Wars Villainous. Now today we will learn how to win and play better as Moff Gideon by going over his cards and really learning what they do and grasping why they are in his deck. And throughout doing this, we will not only learn how to play Moff Gideon, but also how to think as him as well. Now, before we dive in any further, let's go over two new gameplay elements that are brand new to Star Wars Villainous. And first up is going to be Ambition. This is actually a secondary resource in the game. You're going to be gaining one ambition at the beginning of each of your turns. These can be used to do powerful ambition effects and play ambition cards, as well as use activated ambition abilities, which works much like activated abilities in the other Villainous games line. We also have vehicles that are going to be representing powerful ships, transports, and more in the Star Wars galaxy. Now these cards can be played to deep space, which will create a new location that your villain can move to, activating the actions at that location and giving your villain a special ability whenever they go there. There are also going to be fate vehicles that will come and they will either engage or disengage with your vehicles, but when left unattended, they will be shrinking your hand size that you draw up to at the end of each of your turns. But now let's go ahead and talk about his objective. A formidable and clever member of the collapsed empire, Moff Gideon will do anything to keep and grow his power. Now to achieve that, he plans to create the next generation of deadly Darktroopers. His plans require him to capture and experiment on Grogu. Now to fulfill his objective, Moff Gideon must have Grogu, Dr. Pershing, and the laboratory samples in play and at the same location. Additionally, Grogu must be on the villain side of your sector. Then Moff Gideon himself must be there and then pay 5 ambition to win the game. Now Grogu is going to be a hero in Moff Gideon's Fate deck, and he can only be played as part of a normal Fate action if another hero is in play. Now to capture Grogu, you will actually need to move him to the villain side of your sector using cards like Captured or Darktroopers. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the allies that you can use throughout your sector in order to complete your goal. Now, Moff Gideon actually has some interesting connections and allies. His relationship to the client will help supply Beskar, which in the game can lower the cost of cards that are otherwise pretty expensive to play. Dr. Pershing, while being essential to your win condition, also lowers the cost to play Darktroopers while Moff Gideon is at his location, which can be very helpful. Now, while Stormtroopers and Death Troopers create the backbone of your forces on the ground, Darktroopers have another purpose. If they can get Grogu alone at a location, you can command them to move the child's card to the villain side of the sector. This is just one of the many steps that you'll need to do at some point in order to win the game as Moff Gideon. Now moving on to some of the items in Moff Gideon's deck, Beskar is a powerful and adaptable item card. After being attached to an ally, it can be removed with an ambition action to play another card for free. Now the optimal use for this is going to be to play your most expensive cards like Captured or your Darktroopers. Now there is another cool ability that Beskar has, and that is to spend 4 ambition, find Grogu wherever they are at, and play them to the hero side of your sector. Another great card to get your goal up and running. Now, the Darksaber is a very powerful weapon in the Star Wars universe. Once played, you attach it to an ally, and if that ally is defeated, you will leave the Darksaber at that location. Now, the first hero or ally to that location attaches the Darksaber and adds a +1 strength token to it. Now, Grogu is the one exception to the rule. They cannot wield the Darksaber. But as you can see, this Darksaber is going to get stronger and stronger as heroes and allies start defeating each other using this Darksaber. Now you also have laboratory samples, and this is a card essential to you winning the game. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it a little bit later in this guide, but now let's move on to some of the effect cards in Moff Gideon's deck. The Kid's Just Fine is a way to move Grogu from the villain's side of Moff Gideon's sector to a Dark Trooper's location. Now, one of the really strategic things that you can do to plan for maybe the use of this card is to always play one Dark Trooper at the location of laboratory samples. That way you can save time and get the child over at the same location as those samples. Now, though Grogu is in your Fate deck, playing heroes to your sector shouldn't really be a priority for Moff Gideon players. Play You Have Something I Want if opponents' Fate actions do not reveal Grogu for you. This card allows you to reveal Fate cards until you reveal a hero. This may be Grogu, but could also be another hero that allows Grogu to be played later. So either way, this might be helpful to get a little closer to your goal throughout the game. Now, if you find yourself struggling with a lot of heroes in your sector and you are not able to really remove them, weakening all heroes with Me and the Kid Will Survive is a great option for you. However, you should always be careful not to get too bogged down by these distractions because you'll actually need this ambition to achieve your goal. Now, one of the most powerful cards in your villain deck is Captured. Instead of spending ambition to play it though, using Beskar is the best way because this is a very expensive card at 5 ambition. Once you use this, you will be well on your way to winning with Grogu on the villain side of your sector. Now, both of your condition cards can be useful in very certain situations. Experimentation requires that another player spends ambition, and if so, will give a nice boost to your Dark Troopers. Long Live the Empire might be a little bit more situational, and it really depends on whether you need something in your discard pile and feel like you'll have a good enough chance of grabbing it from your deck later. Now, Moff Gideon has 2 vehicles in his deck. He has got the Imperial Light Cruiser as well as the Outland TIE Fighter. Move to the Imperial Light Cruiser in order to draw an extra card at the end of your turn or gain some extra ambition. One of the reasons why I like the Outland TIE Fighter is actually to use it to engage and destroy other vehicles because the ability that it has is really situational and one that you probably won't use too much as Moff Gideon unless you absolutely cannot find Grogu within your deck. Now, even when Moff Gideon captures Grogu, his plans can still be thwarted. Grogu can be rescued by Fate cards that bring Grogu back to the hero side of your sector. The Jedi not only moves Grogu to the hero side of Moff Gideon's sector, but also defeats any Dark Troopers at Grogu's location as well. Right when Moff Gideon thinks that everything is secure in his hands, unexpected help may appear. This is a restriction card that frees Grogu and allows him to be rescued by defeating all allies at Grogu's location. Then Moff Gideon must defeat a hero in order to remove this restriction and be able to capture Grogu once again. And even the Mandalorian may show up, gaining +2 strength when at the same location as Grogu. Now, one really cool thing that you can do, but it's not guaranteed that you'll be able to, is that you can actually defeat Mandalorian with the Darksaber. I mean, let's be honest, that would be pretty cool. Now, to win, Moff Gideon players must embrace his planning and manipulation skills. The first thing you need to do is to decide early on where you want to be placing your laboratory. And where better to establish yourself than the old Imperial base location? This is going to be great because it has an ambition action on the bottom of the board, meaning that it will always be accessible to you. Now, as you draw cards essential to your master plan, such as Grogu, Dr. Pershing, and laboratory samples, be sure to play all of them to the same location. Also, be sure to spread your Dark Troopers throughout your sector to prepare to capture Grogu whenever he is played. Now, Captured is an amazing card with good potential to win the game very quickly. I would definitely hold on to it when I draw it. If you have laboratory samples and Dr. Pershing at the same location, you can move Moff Gideon to that location, then use the ambition action to play Captured, putting Grogu on the villain side at Moff's location. Then use the extra action that laboratory samples provides to use the ambition ability on laboratory samples to win the game. Note that this does require that you spend 10 ambition in a single turn, and therefore I would highly recommend that you have Beskar set up previously, that way you can discount that by at least half. With proper board manipulation and planning, you will find success as Moff Gideon. But another really valuable tip in playing Moff Gideon better is to know the enemies that you're up against. So in order to learn more about the next villain, go ahead and watch this guide right here.